sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Indians starting pitching was almost unhittable for the second night in a row, as Danny Salazar was efficient in shutting down the Rays. The starters were aided by the return of the long ball, including a key 3-run homer from rookie Giovanni Urshela. Now the Tribe will try to keep flashing the leather behind Carlos Carrasco. Next on Sports Time Ohio. Across the Sunshine Skyway Bridge to St. Petersburg, Florida, where you will find Tropicana Field, home of the Tampa Bay Rays. And tonight, the Indians will try to make it 3 straight over their foes from the American League's Eastern Division. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. The Indians' offense has been better in this series, but once again, the real story is Indians pitching. First rookie Cody Anderson, then Danny Salazar. Both of them were perfect for large stretches of their starts in this series.
You know, it's amazing. I know the Rays are struggling when it comes offensively, but these two guys were very good. Cody Anderson going out 6 1/3, perfect innings, and only gave up 2 hits. And then you come back, and Danny Salazar last night, not with the strikeout pitch, but pitching, getting outs on a few number of pitches. He went 5 straight innings of perfect baseball, and it was fun to watch. And I mean, they were really good games until late in the ball game, and then all of a sudden the offense kicked in. So they're going to see some more tonight. Carlos Carrasco, the key here, get him the lead, because he is 8-0. When they give Carrasco the lead, he'll be matched up against Alex Colomé tonight.
All right, so that's the story here. Indians, Tampa Bay Rays. The other storyline, the Indians' young guns. Francisco Lindor and third baseman Giovanni Urshela have already had a big impact on the Tribe season. Andre Knight joins us when we come back with more on that story. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Rays. Matt Underwood, Rick Banning with you. Let's go down to the field and bring in Andre Nadeau as more on the two Indians young guns, or as they like to be called, the Tribe Boys.
Yes, the Tribe Boys.
Yeah, Francisco Lindor, Giovanni Urshela. Jason Kipnis says, hey, we're trying to slow the game down for them. But, Andre, it doesn't look like it's too fast for them.
No, it doesn't seem like that. And the two Tribe Boys have told me that that's all the players keep telling them. Let the game slow down. Play the game that you've always played. But they've given a lot of credit to Mike Aviles, who's always there for them, explains to them where they should be position-wise. And now when I talk to Mike, he goes, look, I'm at shortstop tonight. But he goes, but throughout the evening, I will come in here and I'll talk to Frankie about where he should line up or why he should go at guys. He goes, but the real thing that has impressed them is that they both have a maturity and they act like they should be here. He told him, look, smile, be yourself, enjoy the game, but don't allow anyone else to take away the joy of the game from you. The other thing is, in talking to Terry Francona, he said the thing that stands out to him about Urshela, he says when he plays third base, it's almost like the game speed is perfect for him here, almost better than it was when he was in the minors. He says the fields are better, and he goes, the way he plays defense, it energizes the entire team. They love having him. There's not one teammate that doesn't tell me they don't love the energy that these two brought. It's been a lot of fun early on to watch these two on the left side of the infield.
Well, the fun thing about it is they're coming up together. So there's a bond right there. They like each other. And you know what? It's good that these guys are trying to help them and slow the game down. Really, there's nothing that they can do. They have to let them grow up. They got to go out there. They got to play some baseball games. They got to figure it out on their own. But those guys are going to be behind them every step of the way, because I'll tell you what, this team has had a spark since they've been here.
Well, they play side by side on the infield, and they locker side by side in the clubhouse.
Good for them.
Indians, Tampa Bay Rays. We've got the play-by-play with Carlos Carrasco taking the hill for the Tribe tonight. He'll try to follow suit after Cody Anderson and Danny Salazar simply shut down the Rays in the first two games of this series. Gets up and throws. Got him! Wow. Amazing play by Francisco Lindor. Holy smokes. Deep left. He's at the wall. It is gone. Urshela and Lindor putting on the Ritz tonight. Yeah, what a show indeed it was last night as the Indians beat the Rays for the second consecutive time. Now they'll try to go for three in a row here this evening. Alex Colomé on the hill for Tampa. Here's the starting nine for Cleveland, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis will lead it off. He homered last night in the ballgame. Mike Aviles gets the start in place of Lindor. He'll bat second. Michael Brantley is third. And it's Murphy, Santana, and Moss in the middle. Giovanni Urshela, who's hit in 9 straight, will hit 7th, and it's Michael Bourne and Roberto Perez.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher, Alex Colomé, who is 3-3. But the Rays have lost his last 7 starts. Although he pitched a whale of a game in Cleveland 2 starts ago where he went 7 innings, allowed 1 hit, and actually had a perfect game going through 5 innings. Let's set that defense behind him. Brought to you by Chrysler. It looks like this. Butler gets the start in left field. Kiermaier in center. Souza over in right. Longoria at third. Cabrera at short. Forsythe at second. Krause at first. Casale doing the catching.
Adrian Johnson will call the balls and strikes. The crew chief, Bill Miller at first. Doug Eddings at second. Jim Wolf down at third. We are ready to go as Alex Colomé winds it up and delivers. And the first pitch of the game is high and away, ball 1. This is the 37th game of the year in which Tampa has used a rookie starting pitcher. That is the most in the majors.
Yeah, Colomé getting the start. And, of course, Carnes, who has been out there and done a nice job for him, the bulk of those 39.
Yeah, this is 13 for Colomé, and Carnes has started 16 games.
For Colomé in his career, who's 1-0, hasn't given up an earned run in 13 1/3 innings in 2 career starts against the Tribe.
Smoke behind the bag. Nice play by Krause. He'll go himself, and he just does beat Kipnis to the bag.
Well, he would have had to beat him because Colomé wasn't there. Kipnis was going to beat the pitcher to the bag, so Krause had to make that play on his own. Pitcher was nowhere to be found. That ball was right over the bag, too. A nice play. And, you know, it's almost like you say, what are they doing playing him on the line there when he hits so many to left field?
I was a little surprised to see Krause right there.
Normally you're off the line for him.
Here's Mike Aviles, his first action in the series. But if you listen to Andre, and I was in the clubhouse earlier when he was talking with Aviles, I say his first action in the series. That's a bit of a misnomer. It's his first playing action. But this guy is never just sitting idly by. And he has been in the dugout, in the clubhouse. He's been in the ear of Urshela and Lindor and truly helping them with each step of the way. And yet, as every good veteran learns, he doesn't do it in an invasive manner. He lets them come to him, but he's there for them.
Yeah, you know what? You pass the game along. That's something that when you've been around a while and you have young kids coming up, that you want to teach them the right way to play the game and the right way to go about things. And he can certainly help, and I'm sure they're all ears. But look at these guys; they have fun. It's fun to watch. They enjoy it, and you're supposed to.
Aviles pops it up on the infield. Forsythe, the second baseman, has it. 2 down. Our window systems game time temperature, as always, 72 degrees inside Tropicana Field. A little warmer today outdoors, 91 at game time. Felt like 100 degrees this afternoon. It was extremely humid. You got out and played 18 this morning. I'm impressed.
What's that?
I said you got out and played 18 this morning. I'm
very
impressed.
Very early.
Michael Brantley 4 for 8 in the series with a double. Already his third streak of 6 games or more. Socked to deep left. Back is Butler. And the Indians go 1-2-3. And Tampa Bay Rays are coming to bat. He will oppose for Kevin Cash in the Tampa Bay Rays tonight, courtesy of Toyota. Kevin Kiermaier, hitless in the series in the leadoff spot. Joey Butler gets his first action. He'll bat second. Evan Longoria will hit third. Then it's DeJesus, Forsythe, and Souza Jr. As Drupal Cabrera, Mark Krause, and Kurt Casale will bat ninth.
Carlos Carrasco will be our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher. 9-6, coming off a start against the Tigers where he went 8 innings. He's done that 3 times this year. Got the win. Gave up 5 hits, a couple of runs. And Carrasco, a career high in wins now with 9. And what you try to do with this guy is get him the lead early because he is 8-0 when you can hand it over to him. He just tightens the bolts, man, and tightens it down.
First pitch is lifted foul out of play by Kiermaier.
For Carlos, though, in his last start against Tampa back in Cleveland, back on the 19th of June, he went 6 2/3, 10 hits. He was the losing pitcher in that ball game, so they were able to get to him. The Indians didn't score but 1 run in that game.
Rick, I really wonder, and I don't know if there's a way to really know for sure, but is that stat, is there something to it? You know, pitching, is he better? Does he truly pitch better when he gets the lead? Or is it more a matter of coincidence?
Well, it could be a little bit of both, but you know one thing going into it, if you can get him a lead, or you know, at sometimes when he, in his losses, they haven't scored from a lot like Kluber this year. I guess that holds true with every pitcher. But once you see it gets a lead, as Bob Feller used to tell us, in the 7th inning, that's when you see your pitchers. When they give me a 1-run lead and you slam the door, that's what it is.
You don't let them back in.
You don't let them back. And I know a lot of times now it's out of the starter's hands because it goes to the bullpen. But Carrasco has gone out there, gone 8 3 times, and he's given them some length. So to me, that means a little bit more with Carlos. You have to score for any starting pitcher to win, and for a starting pitcher to get a lot of decisions like Carrasco has, then you have to go deep into the game. He has a decision in every start, and even a couple to go back to last year. So the thing I like about it, he's going to go out there, he's either going to win it for you or he's going to lose it for you. But he's going to, more times than not, he's going to win it. Just score him a few runs.
The 2-2. Swung out and missed. He strikes him out to start the game.
The Indians' defense behind Carrasco tonight, brought to you by Chrysler, looks like this. Brantley in left, Bourne in center, Moss in right. Urshela at third. Aviles gets the start at short tonight. Kipnis at second, Santana at first. Perez doing the catching. 19th start for Aviles at shortstop.
Joey Butler. Listed side. He has not been in the lineup the first couple of games. You know, the Rays looking for some offense. They acquired Grady Sizemore. They called him, so he's been in the lineup the first 2 games in the DH spot. That puts DeJesus in left field, and it puts Butler on the bench. It's sort of a domino effect.
Well, I remember this guy in Cleveland. He shot, I think, Carrasco to right center field early. He had some great power. And you can see that's where Cookie's keeping that fastball inside, trying to sink it in and throw the sliders away. He's got really good opposite field power.
Well, he has struck out 10 times in his last 22 at-bats, which is another reason why he got the last couple of nights off.
Well, the Rays have been just like what the Indians are doing. You know, although I think the Indians are getting more hits and getting more opportunities than the Rays. And the Rays aren't hitting much, and 5 hits in the first 2 games of this series, and they're hitting poorly with runners in scoring position as well.
Santana with a diving stop to the backhand side. Good throw to first, and Carrasco had to reach for the bag, but he does so for out number 2.
Tell you what, after there was a play here where when Bauer was pitching, that's on this road trip, that Santana lobbed one to first base to try and lead him and threw it behind, and Bauer made a nice play. He's waiting a little bit longer now, I've noticed, to make the throw firm.
to lead the guy and get it there. It's really tough to try and lead a guy and, a pitcher on the run where he can get his footwork to the bag. But the last 3 or 4 plays he's had throwing to first base of the pitcher, they've been firm.
It goes back to the same thing we saw 2 nights ago with the intentional walk pitch.
Yes,
anytime you try to feather it, that's usually when things go haywire.
Yeah, you can't control it. You have to put a little something on it.
Evan Longoria checked his swing. He did not go. 1 for 7 in the series for the man affectionately known as Longo. Had his 7-game hitting streak snapped with his 0 for 4 yesterday. But Rick, you mentioned it before with the Indians' offensive struggles, and I'm sure the same theory applies to Tampa. When the pieces don't seem to fit together, it becomes a game of I have to do, I have to, and that's probably what has put them in an offensive rut.
Well, you can tell just by their quotes in the newspapers around here, and this is the guy that takes the bulk of it because he's been around the longest. We're fine. I believe in this club. We're going to do it. But they have so many young kids. They've got a lot of rookies, and they haven't been through it before. It takes a while to learn it. And you have to do it together. This is not a team good enough to come out. They have talent. They have some young players that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, but you have to manufacture runs. And they're a team that can run and steal bases. They're second in the league, but you have to get base runners and make something happen.
3-1 pitch. Big bouncer toward short. Aviles will take it. Perfect throw, and the Indians get out of the inning as Tampa goes 1-2-3. Carrasco off to a strong start. We are scoreless after 1. How about some crooked numbers on offense? 3-run homers will help that. And for Carlos Carrasco, keep the train rolling.
Keep the cookies coming.
David Murphy takes inside corner, a called strike. Line to right field. That's a base hit over near the line. Souza Jr. will cut it off. And David Murphy is aboard with the first hit of the night. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott, who has more on Rays starting pitcher Alex Colomé.
You know, inside the clubhouse for the Indians, they said after seeing him the first time, they said on video you knew he threw a lot of fastballs, but he's effectively wild, all over the strike zone. You don't know where it's going, so you got to get a good read on it out of his hands. Also, he'll do the slider against the righties, and he has a changeup to lefties that kept all the guys off balance the first time they saw him back in Cleveland.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to pick up certain pitches from pitchers. Everybody is different.
Santana looks at a ball outside. Good block.
That was the
Like
change
Sally.
Went fastball away, missed. Change up down, missed.
Well, it's 3-0 after he misses with the fastball. Leadoff man aboard. And a chance to have a rally now. Up and away, ball four. A 4-pitch walk to Santana after the leadoff single by Murphy. And now Brandon Moss coming to the plate.
This is where the Indians have had opportunities a lot recently when you get runners on first and second and nobody out, but they've had a hard time getting them over and in.
Rays shift 3 onto the right side of the infield. But with a runner at second, Longoria stays on the left side. So he'll be near the bag at third. Normally they'll take Longoria and put him on the right side of the infield, and they'll keep Cabrera on the left side. But because that runner's at second base, they want Longoria taking any potential throw at third. You got to know if it's a nickel package or the dime package.
Well, you're right. It changes. Nowadays, it's totally different how they play defense and how they shift on certain hitters. Both Santana and Moss are pretty much identical every team you see.
Moss rips it down the right field line, headed for the corner, fair ball. That will score Murphy. Santana coming around third. It's misplayed by Souza. They're going to wave him home. He'll score. The ball's over the cutoff man's head. Indians lead it 2-0. Brandon Moss delivers, and then Souza's inability to pick up the ball in the corner enables the Indians to make it a 2-run lead.
Yeah, they get a big base hit now by Brandon Moss's 17th double. This will be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. Now, the play here is going to be a tough play down in the corner. It's going to be a double. 1 run should score, but when it gets by, he doubles it by throwing it over the cutoff man's head and misses and tries to throw all the way home, or they might have had a chance with Santana. But Mike Sarbaugh did the right thing. Keep them coming. Let's be aggressive. So they get 2 runs in, 2 ribbies for Moss. It's a 2-0 lead.
39 RBIs for Brandon Moss on his 17th double of the year. Giovanni Urshela swings and misses. Colomé came in tight, knocked him back off the plate.
Well, he's trying to keep him from pushing the ball to the right side. The Indians 24-7 when they score first.
And that's the formula in the first 2 games of the series.
Nice.
Punches it toward right field. Souza on the run makes the catch. tagging is Moss. He's headed for third, and the ball hops into Longoria's chest, and Moss is 90 feet away from home plate. So for Urshela, he gets him over.
That's the great thing. He didn't have a good swing on that ball. It was out front, but he was able to tag up and get him to third base.
Well, a great clip of the game from last night. Home run ball. Jason Kempnis with a solo shot. Urshela with the 3-run blast, and David Murphy with a 2-run homer. The Rays will bring the infield in with 1 out and Michael Bourne at the plate.
That doesn't surprise me. The way they've been scoring, they're forced to, try and cut off every run they can.
This has not been a strength of Michael Bourne's this year. Just 178 average with a runner in scoring position, 8 out of 45. But right here, you take a sac fly.
Well, yeah, you look for a pitch that can be elevated in the strike zone and hit it in the air. You're looking for something around the belt.
Moves him back 2-0.
Look like a little cutter.
Up high, 3 balls, no strikes. He's on the verge of his second 4-pitch walk in the inning.
Yeah, they could use some distance from their starter tonight. Tampa can. They pulled up 2 new relievers today. There's a good pitch.
Puts Bourne on a pretty selective spot right here. He can really zero in on something that he can drive to the outfield. He got it, lined it to left. Moss goes back to tag. Butler comes up. He was just too shallow. Moss, no chance to come home and score.
Yeah, it's just tough to drive it that way. Michael doesn't have it to drive it over the head or deep enough. It's a line drive. He hit it well. But you see, Moss is not going to score. I don't know if anybody would have been able to get out there and score. You can see where Butler is at and gets rid of it quickly. And he realized Moss wasn't going anywhere. Just not deep enough.
So with 2 down, the infield goes back to normal depth. And Roberto Perez climbs in. Perez is swinging the bat very well right now. He's hit in 4 straight games, 6 for his last 13. And boy, did he pull the string on him.
Out in front of the slider. He thought he was going to get a fastball. And I was just getting ready to say that what has made Perez so good recently is that he's going down the right field line. Now look at him pull off. You see where the front shoulder was on that swing. Perez has been letting that ball track a little deeper into toward the plate area, and he's been slicing some balls right down the first baseline.
Now he's chased a couple of sliders and he's 0-2. Could almost see like he was guessing fastball first time up, and then after that first pitch, he said, well, he's not going to throw it again. Now I'll get the fastball. It crossed him up again.
May throw it again here.
Up and away with a heater.
Yeah, just to give him a pitch to look at, that fastball away, hoping he'd swing at it. That was a strikeout pitch going that high, but he'll come back with another breaking ball, I would think.
Rays have 3 infielders on the left side for Perez. Moss at third base with 2 down. Low and inside, 2-2.
I like that. They're thinking along the same lines. The Colomé went back inside with a fastball, so he's not cheating to go out there and hit the slider.
Perez goes with the pitch, drives it to right field, but Souza will make the catch on the front edge of the warning track. Brandon Moss delivers for the Tribe here in the second. A 2-run double, and the Indians have the early lead. And when Carlos Carrasco gets a couple of runs on his side of the ledger, he goes right back out and shuts them down.
Yeah, he's done a beautiful job this year in that situation, and that's exactly what you do to keep the momentum on your side. Throw a 0 on the board, and when he gets the lead, he's been lights out.
David DeJesus takes a strike. The Rays' designated hitter in tonight's lineup, once again batting in that unfamiliar cleanup spot for him in terms of his career. It's been a familiar spot this year, especially of late. But his average has plummeted due to a 1-for-25 slide that he's currently mired in.
Yeah, you got a few guys scuffling Sousa's in that department as well.
Out of play. If you've been with us the first 2 games of the series, you've heard this number before, but this is the 19th start this year for DeJesus in the cleanup spot after he had 1 in his career before this season.
Yeah, that's...
And primarily, Rick, when he was with Kansas City, when we remember DeJesus, he was a leadoff hitter. Sometimes he'd bat second, but primarily that's the...
Yeah, he's an energy guy up at the top of the lineup, not a number 4 hitter, that's for sure. He's still not, but for Tampa, I guess they figure he's not going to change his way of hitting or his approach.
Now, when James Loney comes back, I would imagine they would maybe put him...
Loney should be back by Friday, I think, when they go to New York and play the Yankees.
You would think he'd probably go into that 4th spot.
He would, yes. You could put him 4th, but, you know, after not playing, but I would, yes. No question about it.
Logan Forsythe, hitless in the series, looks at a low tracer at 96 miles an hour at the knees.
I think these Rays are probably thinking, boy, hurry up and get Cleveland out of town. These guys that they're throwing at us, they've got some mustard on the ball, and they have good breaking balls and change-ups. But it's not going to get any easier because they have Kluber tomorrow.
2 down. Cody Anderson pitched game 1. Danny Salazar pitched last night. I mean, Cody was perfect. A little bit deeper into the game. Danny went to 5 perfect before he walked the leadoff man of the 6th. Cody was perfect with 1 out in the 7th inning.
And look at that. Yeah, I don't know who Jim McAndrew was, but I know who Nolan Ryan was with the Mets, and they had some great arms back in those days.
That's pretty impressive.
Well,
you have to go back to 1969.
Yeah, I mean, with back-to-back pitchers going out there and throwing perfect games from 5 and then 1 6 and 2/3. And then they had a guy from Toronto about a week ago that took one into the 8th. A perfect game, if you remember.
That's right. That game went 12 innings before Toronto finally won 1-0. Out the outside corner.
Matt Moore, who's been on the disabled list since last year, coming off surgery, will get the start for Tampa, his first this year.
Souza Jr. down swinging. Carrasco, with his second strikeout, has retired the first 6 Tampa hitters in order. Batting average through the month of June since 1950. Jason Kipnis checking in at .346. How about Larry Doby in 1950? Are you kidding me? .375. Yeah. Kenny Lofton, I forgot, in 94. Was it .363?
Toby Harrah in 82 when he had that year, which was a great year. Watch him, and it's like Kipnis. They're always on base.
Kipnis goes right back up the middle, and he's got a base hit. His 5th hit and 10 at-bats in the series. Tribe gets their leadoff man aboard for the 2nd inning in a row.
Well, you see they have him played over there, and for whatever reason, they had him on the line. You can see where the shortstop's at, so they're playing him to pull more in this game, and he goes right back up the middle. So obviously they're thinking, okay, we're going to make him use his hands and try to pull a ball, and guess what? He's done it twice. He could very easily be 2 for 2.
Breaking ball in there for a strike to Mike Aviles, who popped up on the infield his first time up. Aviles pulls it foul over towards third. Pulls it foul again.
Guy brought a glove, made a nice catch on the high hopper. Gave it to his young son. Right now, Mike Avila's in the protect mode. Down on the count 0-2.
Well, it's an 0-2 count for Mike Avilas, with Kipnis aboard at first. Indians trying to add to a 2-0 lead here in the third. I'm going to bring in Andre Knott. You mentioned earlier about Mike Avilas talking in a clubhouse today about the young players, Francisco Lindor and Giovanni Urshela. Have you been able to tell, Andre, who's more impressed with who? Avilas with how well the young guys have played, or the young guys with how receptive and open the older guys have been toward them?
I think Avilas. That's a great question. I think Avilas is blown away because he talks about when he came up and the different players that helped him. And he says, really, with these guys, he goes, they ask a question, you answer it, and he goes, and then they just move on to the next thing. The other thing he said, though, and I'll tell you after this play.
In the hole, a diving attempt by Cabrera. It's into left field, so Avilas delivers. And the Indians have back-to-back singles to open up this third inning. Go ahead, Andre.
Well, the thing that jumps out to Mike about both of them is he said, look, there's no dumb question. He goes, if you have a question, ask me. He goes, because I don't want to lose a game, and you guys don't want to lose a game because you don't ask me something. He goes, he's just blown away by how both of they are. And he goes, the funny thing is with them together, he feels outnumbered by them. And he goes, and they're pretty darn good. So he said, I better help them because they're going to be here for a long time.
Well, that really speaks highly of the guys who are sort of under the radar, Rick, the anonymous guys who run the Indians player development system, who are with the young players on a day-to-day basis, who get them ready to the big leagues. You heard Andre talk about Avilas. You tell Lindor and Urshela one time, and boom, they take it and run with. Mickey Callaway said the same thing about a guy like Cody Anderson. Here's a rookie, and he said, I taught him a two-seam pitch, talked to him about it one time, and then he brought it right into the game. And he said that really tells you a lot about a young player who can take coaching, take a learning point, a learning moment, and then immediately adapt to it right away.
Well, it's great. You know, these guys, they should be like sponges coming up here and picking everybody's brain and listening, because, and you know what they have to find out, and they will find out. Some things that people tell you are it's going to be good. Some you won't be able to incorporate it into your game. But if there's anything that anybody can tell you that you can use to help your game make you become a better major league player, that's terrific.
Not many people have to tell Michael Brantley anything these days. Came in 4 for 8 in the first 2 games of the series with a double. He just keeps rolling along with that consistent approach. 6 straight games with a hit. And a .343 average with runners in scoring position on the year. Go to second, but Kipnis is easily back with the dive.
Here again for the second straight inning. They have first and second, nobody out. They cashed in last inning on the double by Moss. Can they do it again this inning?
Base hit into right field. Kipnis coming around third. Sarbaugh's going to wave him home. Sousa's throw over everybody's head. To the backstop it goes. And runners at second and third as the Tribe's lead is now 3-0. Brantley with his 39th run batted in on the year.
Well, he's lucky that ball didn't go into the seats. It hit about at the end of that screening by about a foot. Or if that goes into the seats, then you get one more run, and then Brantley would have been on third. He uncorks a wild throw and lets everybody just keep right on running. You know, that's a young player right there, and a bad move because everybody moves up. On the base hit, you must hit your cutoff man. And if you do, you might get an out in that situation.
No error. They just say they advance on the throw.
Yeah, because he was going to score on the throw, and they advance on the throw. You're right. It is an error, but they don't charge him with an error.
I guess it's more of a mental error.
Yes, it is.
Because you didn't hit your cutoff man.
I mean, there's no reason when you're playing on turf like this to throw a ball that high in the air. It's early in the game. It's not do or die. Get it down.
It's not going to check up like on grass.
No, get it down, and at least that'll freeze the runners from moving up when they see the ball down. When they see the ball elevated, they just continue to run. They don't stop. So now you're putting pressure on your defense, and the Indians have an opportunity to have a crooked number. Let's go back to the key of the game. Get some crooked numbers. They're doing that.
Again, the infield forced to come in for Tampa, down 3. Murphy,
that'll
left
get it
field.
done.
Butler makes the catch, tagging is Aviles. He's coming home. He scores without a play, and the Indians have a 4-0 lead. Back-to-back innings, they've put up a couple of runs. For David Murphy, his 22nd RBI in the year.
Well, you have to love to hit as a hitter with runners, the infield in, less than 2 outs, runners in scoring position, because the pressure is all on the defense.
And now with Carlos Santana, the Rays will shift 3 to the right side of the infield. But again, with that runner at second, Longoria stays over on the left side, stays near third base. Santana walked on 4 pitches his first time up. Colome at 43 pitches with 1 out in the 3rd inning. Misses outside to even it up. Breaking ball slides in for a strike. It's 1-2. I'm not sure there's anybody on this club happier to see the calendar turn to the month of July than Carlos Santana. He hit just 189 in the month of June with 9 RBIs in 26 games.
And he had many opportunities as well.
Upstairs 2-2. Michael Brantley in scoring position with 1 out. And the 2-2 offering popped him up right in front of the pitcher's mound. And Colome is going to take it and make the catch. Almost did a deep back bend in doing so, but there are 2 down.
Not many times you can see a 1.
Foul ball down the line.
All right, there's
one
guy in the jersey.
There's 2.
All right, he's got 2 of them. That's why he's going to give 1 up.
It's a twofer.
That's nice. Well, he's sitting right in the right spot. That's why you bring your glove.
Now Brandon Moss, who doubled into the right field corner his first time up, driving in 2 runs. Lifts one foul out of play to the left. The Indians lead it 4-0. Pulls it foul. second inning with 2 on and nobody out. He got one out over the plate.
Well, he pulled that one down in the corner, looking like a fastball away, and that tricky angle over there out in right field got Souza. Then he ended up missing his cutoff or his relay man coming in on that throw as well. So he's made 2 bad throws tonight.
Chance to get out of the inning without any more damage for Colome. But Casale wants to go out and double check before this 0-2 pitch to Moss. Strikes him out to end the inning. 2 runs, 3 hits, 1 man left. And in the middle of the third, it's the Indians 4 and the Rays nothing. Brought to you by Miller Lite. Well, the Indians are out to an early 4-0 lead. As Drupal Cabrera looks at the ball up and away. Cabrera has 16 hits in his last 45 at-bats. That covers his last 12 games. So he's bumped his season batting average up 27 points since June 18th. The 1-1 swung out and missed. And what's even more interesting to me about Cabrera is that, and this is one of those stats that can be misleading, but he leads all major league shortstops in fielding percentage. He's committed 2 errors and 251 total chances. Now there are those who would say, well,
he doesn't get to as much.
Yeah.
His range factor, yeah. And I agree with that.
Strikes him out. Good pitch by Carrasco. He's fan 3. And there is 1 out here in the 3rd inning.
That gives Carlos Carrasco 100. This is going to be our Circle K strikeout. You can see that little, look like a cutter, but that's a nice slider. Goes inside. You get number 100, and you've got 3 Indians pitchers with over 100 strikeouts. And check it out. Through 77 games.
And what's really interesting to me that since 1914, all three teams have done it in the last 4 years.
Yeah. Well, that goes to show you. Guys swing and
strikeouts are on the rise.
They're on the rise. The pitchers are throwing better, but they don't tell them to put it in play. This Indians team, they can strike out, and I'll tell you, not far away from 100 is Trevor Bauer, who has 90. So you're going to have 4.
Yeah.
And it could be in his next start. Who knows? I'll tell you, they have some swing and miss stuff, and that's why I'm saying you're going to get teams that are going to say, you guys can leave town anytime you want. You can leave yesterday, please. Go.
Well, and what we're also seeing is a phenomenon that we have witnessed many times before. We talk about momentum in baseball. What is momentum? Momentum is next day's starting pitcher. Well, when the starting pitchers get on a roll, they do feed off of each other. It's part of it's the competition factor. Oh, so-and-so struck out 10. Well, I'm going to go out and strike out 11 tonight. Or he didn't give up any runs. Well, I'm not going to give up any runs. They get into that mode, and it can take on a life of its own.
Well, I'm looking forward to it now because in the last 2 starts with Cody Anderson, now you've got a 5th starter that can fall into that, right into the mix.
Yeah.
They haven't had one all year. They have not had a 5th starter, but this kid in his first 2 starts, granted it's been against Tampa, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he throws strikes. I'm looking forward to his start in Pittsburgh. They have a nice lineup.
Swing and a miss. Carrasco with another strikeout. That's 3 in a row. 2 down here in the 3rd inning. Well, the Pirates, by the way, they've got some pretty good pitching, too.
Well, yeah, we're going to have a nice pitching matchup on Sunday. You'll get Garrett Cole and I think Salazar. And then the Padres, Shields, who we know, and then Tyson Ross. It's single baller, but he's striking them out this year. Pretty impressive.
Kurt Casale is 1 out of 3 in the series with a double. Oh man, he's got everything.
He's locked in now.
He's
locked in.
These hitters don't know whether to cry or wind their wristwatch right now.
Can't cry in baseball, so they better start winding their wristwatch. If I see him going like that.
Checked his swing, and it's a foul back. No balls, 2 strikes, with 2 outs here in the 3rd inning. That's a tough one to lay off, but Casale watches it go by, and it's 1-2.
We'll take a look at this pitch on our Nissan pitch tracker. It's off the dish. We're seeing if he could get a swing and miss at something that is not in the strike zone. That's why when you're ahead 0-2, you can make pitches like that.
Pop center field. Michael Bourne lost it.
See it.
Now he finds it and makes the catch.
Oh, look at him.
He lost it, found it, lost it again, found it again. And the inning is over. Carrasco mowing him down here in Tampa. half inning.
He's laughing. You know, but that goes to show you don't take your eyes off the ceiling. You got to keep them up there because you have a chance to pick it back up. As you said, sometimes it'll go through. You can see the rings that it may get caught into, the white roof or whatever. But eventually, if you hang in there and just keep searching, you may pick it up again. And that's exactly what happened to Borney. This is just a weird place to play in with the roof. All domes were tough.
What was the King Dome like?
It was okay. It was it's like a cinder block roof up there. It was sort of a grayish.
Any trouble
color.
picking the ball up there?
Yeah, more so. And we call it the Devil's Triangle over there, and right between first, second, and right field. You know, where you get the three converging. To me, that was the toughest spot.
Line drive, base hit, Urshela. Giovanni now with a hit in 10 straight games as he singles to lead off the fourth inning.
Well, Urshela's happy. Watch where Kermar is playing. We told you this is a fastball up, but he plays deep in center field. That ball stayed up and he hit it well. But you see, he wanted to come in. He couldn't go after that one. If you play shallow at times, he might have had a chance to catch it. Who knows? But he plays a deep center field. Urshela's happy he's back because it's a base hit for him.
Michael Bourne, line to left, his first time up. Foul off left side. Longoria was creeping in at third looking for a bunt, and to be honest with you, I thought I'd see Michael Bourne lay one down right here.
Why is that? It's 4-0
Just
here. It's
keep adding on.
Okay, but I'd rather see something, action happen instead of bunting. Instead of giving up and out, try and go first to third. With a 4-0 lead, is still now you're entering the middle part of the ball game. I don't want to give up and out if I don't have to, especially when you're winning. Swing the bats. Low scoring, get middle of the game. I totally understand that.
I guess the way I look at it is if Bourne was swinging the bat better, I'd be right there with you.
Well, and you're moving him over for Perez, a guy that doesn't play every day. So here you go. You're at the bottom part of the lineup. You're giving up an out to go to the number 9 hole.
This is that dilemma that we were talking about last night.
Yeah, we were.
It's just.
I say swing the bats. I would rather see a guy hit and run and take a gamble. And I think a hitter sometimes would rather try to swing the bat and hit and run. But these hitters nowadays, they don't hit it on the ground on a hit and run. They end up hitting in the air too much.
Well, 3-1 count. And Bourne hits the hole.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Giovanni Urshela stops at second base, and the Indians have back-to-back singles for the second inning in a row to start it out.
Well,
that's why you don't bunt there.
For the third time, they've had first and second and nobody out. That's what I'm talking about. Let's swing the bats. We come here to hit. We didn't come to bunt, especially when you have the lead. So now Hickey's got to go out, slow everything down. I'm sure they're going to get their bullpen going because Colomé has been pitching out of trouble for the last 3 innings.
That needs to go on a postcard or something. We didn't come here to bunt. We came here to hit.
That's right. Well, we'll make it. Let's get a T-shirt.
There you go. We got a new T-shirt. Get Andre on that. He seems to have connections down there.
He's liking that.
All right, your guy Roberto Perez is coming up to the plate here. What do you have for us?
You know, he said after playing all that time when Yan Gomes was out, he said he learned a lot about himself. He went back and looked at a lot of his at-bats, and he was getting that long stroke. He was trying to hit everything in left field. And you talked about in his first at-bat.
Right.
And he said after looking at it, he realized, hey, I got some pretty decent power to right center field and right field.
Right.
And he says that's what he's been working on in the cages. He's done a lot of work in the cages and hitting the ball the other way. This would be a great opportunity for him to use it, hit behind the guys right now.
You're absolutely right. Andre, it takes a while to convince people that there's a lot of base hits the opposite way. Everybody wants to get pull happy because they can hit home runs that way. But doubles are nice, too. Singles are nice, depending on the situations. And the more at-bats you get at the big leagues, the more you know when to turn on pitches and what counts you want to do that with.
It comes down to situational.
Exactly.
Goes the other way, deep, right down the line, slicing, and it is a foul ball.
Okay.
Right in front of the pole.
Well, it had the distance.
Another few feet, and that would have been a three-pointer.
It had the distance. That's what you're talking about. Do it, Roberto. He must have a headset in that helmet. Boy, not by much.
It was closer than I thought.
Yes, it was. And also, when you're a hitter like this and you don't have good speed and you don't run, even when you hit a ground ball, it's tougher for the defense to turn a double play from the right side of the infield.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to roll it over from a 6-4-3 standpoint instead of going 4-6-3. A couple of longer throws.
Well, he's in the hole right here, 0-2. And he drives it to pretty deep center field. Kiermaier back, makes the catch. Tagging is Urshela.
Beautiful.
He'll go to third. Indians at the corners with one out.
That's okay. That's a job done. Well done. You get him to third base. Took a chance. That's a good at bat. I like it.
Well, now you got a situation where for Tampa, you can sit back and say, all right, we get a ground ball, we could turn two and get out of the inning. But for the Indians, you say, well, now Bourne can keep that hole open on the right side for Kipnis.
And a fly ball, and you get your one run that you wanted to add on in the middle part of the game. So, yeah, and Kipnis will be looking for something to hit in the air.
So what does this all come down to? Execution. Who executes better, Colomé or Kipnis?
Right. Well, if Colomé executes better, he could get a ground ball double play. But Kipnis is going to see if he can catch a mistake. Like
liner. Cabrera can't come up with it. The Indians will get a run here. As scoring is Urshela. Bourne is forced at second. He had no chance just because it looked like Cabrera was going to catch it initially.
Well, what happens there is Kipnis doesn't get a hit.
But he does get an RBI.
He does get the RBI because you're right. Bourne could not do anything there. You don't want to get doubled off. And Cabrera couldn't hold on to the ball.
It was sinking on him.
It was hit hard. Hit hard. But Kipnis does get that RBI in. They make it a 5-0 game. But the Rays get their second out.
Mike Aviles to the plate. A base hit his last time up. And he pulled the string on him way out in front of it. Well, the Indians have put up a run in 3 straight innings. And they lead it 5-0.
3 straight innings. They've had the first 2 men on and nobody out. So they've taken advantage of their situations tonight. And I know one guy that's happened. It's Carlos Carrasco. This is like a different team in this series compared to when we were in Baltimore. A lot more energy.
Aviles drives one to center field, but Kiermaier is there to make the catch and end the inning. Indians add a run. They lead it 5-0. Giovanni Urshela twice as nice in Tampa.
Well, he had coming off from the very first inning. He's had a nice slider, and it is tight. It is hard tonight. There you go. See the swings and misses. Yeah, he's been, he's followed suit. It was set on Monday, and here we are. The starters are continuing to do the exact same thing every game here.
Well, 9 up, 9 down for Carrasco through the first 3 innings. Kiermaier showed bunt. Urshela came charging in at third.
Why not? They need a base runner. They're looking for any way to get on. Something to happen. They've got their work cut out for them.
You know, Rick, I thought it was really interesting listening to Danny Salazar when he talked to Andre before the ballgame on Indians Live. He was saying that, you know, and I just think this is fascinating with regards to starting pitchers. It's not always the same stuff each time out. Some nights you don't have a certain pitch. And he said last night he had trouble with his changeup. It just didn't feel right. Really didn't throw that many of them, and yet he was still successful because what did he do? He made the adjustment.
Well, yes, he did. He made an adjustment. I like Danny like that because he's not throwing too many pitches and trying for the strikeouts. You know, he utilized his defense. He kept the ball in play. You keep the ball in the yard. Good things happen. 2 hits. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, and he told Andres, you know, working on a little bit of a slower breaking ball to get some separation too.
It's something you can learn every time you go out there. You're not going to have the same stuff every time. You have to make a game of adjustments. That's why the catcher back there has to work you through sometimes to see what your best pitch is going to be that night or your go-to pitch is going to be that night. And you know how hitters are reacting to some of the stuff you're throwing up there.
Oh, perfect pitch.
See ya.
And Kiermaier knew it. 5 strikeouts for Carrasco as he paints the outside corner.
Yeah, just check it out. On the outside edge. Perfect pitch. Sorry about it. That ball's half on the plate, half off the plate. And it's working away.
Well, Joey Butler will bat here with 1 out. Butler hit a ground ball that Carlos Santana had to dive for in the first inning.
I mean, you watch this pitch. It's like right there.
That is slicing the edge.
That's like a surgeon.
Swung on and missed. It's 0-2.
Or a master painter getting that fine line right on the edge.
Perez wanted it off the plate. Wanted to see if Butler would chase. And it's 1-2. I always have to take the edges. I have no chance.
Well, yeah, most of them do, but those guys that get paid, boy, they're good. Steady. I always had to pay somebody to do it.
That usually works out best in the long run.
Had it all over the place.
Yeah. I painted storm windows one time and painted mostly glass. Now the 2-2. Swung on and missed. He finally got him to go fish. And now 6 strikeouts for Carrasco. He struck out 3 in a row between the second and third. Now back-to-back punch-outs to start the fourth.
I see he put a little more tilt on that one, and then it was just overmatched. And, you know, and hitters know when you have something, they just want to. To me, it looks like the Rays, they've been struggling for a little while, are just trying to put the ball in play. You know, they're facing some very good pitching. Let's not take that away. But boy, as hitters sometimes, you know, you can get defensive and you don't want to strike out, so you just try and put it in play. And it looks like they're not, that's the way they're swinging to me. But this pitching has been awfully good. Oh, boy. Yeah, and now they're going after Carrasco early in the count. Right. Because he can put him away.
No, and I think that's what happens when you're a struggling offensive team. You want to get as many swings in as you can.
You want all 3 swings because you know you need them. I said, oh, just sitting up there and remain patient, but it's hard to trust yourself when you're facing guys with great stuff like this 0-2 or 1-2 because they have nasty pitches to put you away.
Longoria 1 for 8 in the series. Kevin Cash looks on. Carrasco trying to set him down in order again. And a foul ball. Longoria able to lay off. Bouncing ball. Kipnis behind the bag. Throws him out. And the Rays go 1-2-3. 12 up. 12 down to the first 4 for Carlos Carrasco. He's struck out a half dozen.
And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Five 0. The Indians have the lead as we head to the 5th inning here at Tropicana Field. And it's time to get a look at our Levin Furniture player profile on Alex Colomé. We talked about him when the Rays were in Cleveland and he pitched against the Tribe. His uncle was Jesus Colomé, who pitched for the Rays. Big curveball upstairs, ball 1 to Michael Brantley. Pulled foul. During the season, Alex Colomé, who's from the Dominican Republic, he lives with his uncle here in St. Pete, who, as I mentioned, pitched for the Rays. I wonder if he pays him rent.
No, I'll bet he doesn't.
As Dribble Cabrera flips it over and throws out Brantley, 1 down. There's another guy who doesn't pay rent. Al Pawlowski with a Mazda game break.
That's true, Matt. Put the check in the mail. It's the first of the month. You owe.
Some folks probably think Al and Jensen live in the studio during the season. Late nights with Indians Live after every ball game. Quick turnaround tomorrow with a noon start here in St. Pete as we wrap up this 4-game series.
Yeah, we will head to Pittsburgh for the weekend, and the Rays are heading to New York.
It's hard to believe the 4th of July weekend is already upon us. 0-2 to Murphy. Wouldn't chase that ball, bounced in the dirt. Murphy singled and scored in the 2nd. And he drove home a run with a sacrifice fly in the 3rd. There's a fly ball in a right field. Routine play for Souza. 2 away. So while you're on your lunch break, pick up your feet at your desk. Watch the Tribe tomorrow as we wrap up the series. Corey Kluber against Matt Moore. What a matchup. As Alan Jensen will start it off with 11:30 a.m. edition of Indians Live, and then first pitch at noon right here on Sports Time Ohio. Moore's long road back. And the funny thing is, with Matt Moore, coming back from the surgery, all the rehab, everything that he's done, he said, "Now, as long as I don't fall off my little scooter, I'll be fine to make that start." He's got, it's not a scooter. What are those things called? Kind of like a Segway, I guess.
Yeah, but it's only on one wheel.
Santana showing bunt and almost got hit in the chest. With 2 outs, I'm not sure why he's swearing.
No, but he's trying to get a base hit.
Oh, just trying to beat the shift, huh? No balls, 2 strikes.
Nothing lead, 2 outs in the 5th inning. Swing the bat.
Oh, and 2. I shudder to think what Gaylord Perry might have said or done had a guy tried to do that when he was on the mound.
I'll tell you what would have happened back then. If something like that would happen, he would have done that. He'd be wearing one in his ribs.
Yep. And getting an earful of the process, probably.
Yes.
Up high, 2-2. $50 out of 77 pitches for Colomé have been strikes, but the Indians have been aggressive. And Santana is rung up. Only the 2nd strikeout for Colomé, but he sets him down 1-2-3 for the 2nd time tonight.
2015 with the MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected with live radio broadcast stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Bottom of the 5th inning. David DeJesus will lead it off for Tampa. And he takes his called strike. A foul back, and the count quickly. No balls, 2 strikes.
Well, Carrasco's been pounding the strike zone tonight. His 60 pitches, 41 strikes. And he is locked in. He wants to get to double digits in wins. And a good chance.
Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. And now 7 Ks for Carrasco. Let's go back down to Andre Nani.
Well, usually with Cookie Carrasco, if you don't get to him early, you're going to have problems with him late. I know you guys brought up earlier how good he is with the lead. Guys, the right-handers pitch well after the 4th inning, holding opponents to just a 231 average. And usually the second time through the lineup is just a 203 average for Carrasco. It's 294 the first time through for him throughout the season.
Yeah, he's one of those starters, Andre. You better get early, 1st, 2nd inning. If you do, to unsettle him a little bit. If you don't, he locks it down.
Is that also a product, Rick, of as he gets deeper into the ball game, he starts to unveil more of those secondary pitches?
Well, he could. Now he's proven he's throwing everything for strikes. So now they're swinging early. They're, like I said before, they're trying to put it in play. They don't want to get buried in pitches, but we watch a lot of our pitchers do that. Salazar could be that way. Kluber is certainly that way. Bauer could be that way. I think Bauer's another guy that likes to pitch later in a ball game too sometimes when he gets locked in and on a roll.
2-2 the count. Pulls it to 3rd. Urshela from near the bag. Low throw. Santana digs it out. 2 away.
Nice play on both ends. Santana helps him out. Little pick play right there. You got to like it. That ball tried to get out of the glove. He had soft hands. It stayed with it. But you can see the little pick at the end. Short hop. Santana picks it. Nice play on both ends.
So with 2 down, Steven Souza Jr. takes a strike.
This is another Ray that's been struggling at the plate for his last 21. He feels he should be doing better, but another young player trying to do too much.
We haven't seen enough of him to know, but I wonder if the offense has affected the defense, because twice in this game early he airmailed the cutoff man by a ton.
Yeah, we don't get a chance. They have a lot of outfield assists as a team.
No balls, 2 strikes with 2 down. And it just missed outside. 1-2.
And he did not chase it. That's what Carrasco was hoping for. It was out of the zone. He was hoping to get him to chase. Souza has 8 outfield assists. Kiermaier 7.
Nice. strikes him out to end the inning. 8 Ks for Carrasco. And for the 3rd straight game, an Indian starting pitcher has retired the first 15 in a row. Aviles and the Indians all smiles tonight, leading at 5-0. Mike with a single and a run scored. During the commercial break, Bauer had Aviles' swing down. Pretty good imitation.
Well, they're right in front of Carrasco, who's trying to pitch. They don't care. He's just sitting there. Everybody's leaving him alone.
Don't talk to the Cookie Monster.
There you go. Yeah.
Look
Get
at
those
Aviles,
hands
that's
down.
pretty good.
Get those hands a little higher.
Pulls it foul. Brandon Moss, big hit in this game. That got the Indians off and running in the 2nd inning. 2-run double. They scored 2 more in the 3rd, added another run in the 4th. And the common theme in all 3 of those innings, the first 2 reached safely to start the inning. Just missed. Tampa's bullpen is quiet. Column A, 81 pitches on the night.
Bullpen has been used quite a bit.
As you mentioned, they sent out 2 of those bullpen guys. Brought up a left-hander and former Indian right-hander Preston Gilmet. 2-2. Moss drives one high in the air, deep left center field. Kiermaier on the move and pulls it down on the front part of the warning track. Route number 1. In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. And Moss with that 2-run double in the 2nd inning. With the Indians up early. Then in the 3rd, Michael Brantley with an RBI hit. David Murphy with a sac fly. That made it 4-0. And then the Indians would add a run in the 4th inning. Jason Kipnis picking up an RBI on a fielder's choice. Since then, Column A has set down 5 in a row. Giovanni Urshela led off the fourth with a single to extend his hitting streak to 10 games. He slugs one to center. Kiermaier moving over, makes the catch, 2 down. He's hitting the ball hard. He's barreling it up.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's another Sugardale Dollar Dog Night when the Indians will take on the Oakland A's. That'll take place Friday, July 10th. You can also enjoy Trans Am Rock Fireworks, which is presented by Wayside Furniture. Go to Indians.com for your tickets.
Michael Bourne, a base hit his last time up. 1 for 2 on the night. Cuts and misses. Despite their offensive woes and the fact that they've lost 3 in a row, Tampa's still tied for first in the AL East with Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore hasn't been able to gain any ground because they've lost to Texas the last 2 nights.
High pop left field or near the line. Butler does it, and the inning is over. 7 in a row set down by Colomé.
And access to Tribe Rewards. Today's Tribe Rewards TV code is Terry. Just go to Indians.com/season tickets for complete details. That's a first. Terry, Tito. Most people call him Tito, don't they?
Yeah. imagine that Tito Sr. is back home watching in Pennsylvania. He catches most of the games. Makes a few trips to Cleveland during the summer. Foul out of play.
He may be up in Pittsburgh this weekend, huh?
Oh, I would have to imagine he'll make that trip.
So. Yeah, absolutely.
Swung out and missed. And Asdrubal Cabrera is the 9th strikeout victim of the night for Carlos Carrasco.
Well, he's been doing it all night long, and he's been making quality pitches along the way. A nasty slider tonight. Has a lot of the Ray hitters swinging over the top of him. Painting the edges with his fastball, putting a little more tilt to that hard slider he's thrown for strikes. He has been outstanding tonight so far.
Mark Krause struck out his first time up. Missed inside, ball 1. Yeah, Tito still lives in New Brighton, Pennsylvania, which is only about, I think it's probably half an hour maybe at most.
Okay.
From Pittsburgh.
He's got to be there. That's a home game for him.
Yeah. I made the trip to New Brighton a couple of years ago.
I know you did. In the off season when you
yeah.
Did you meet his high school coach?
Oh yeah. The whole crew. And there's a place in New Brighton called the Hot Dog Shop.
Yeah.
So Tito, if you are watching, would you please bring us some dogs from the hot dog shop when you're coming down to Pittsburgh?
So that's why Terry likes hot dogs so much, huh? He grew up there.
Yeah. Yeah, the house he grew up in is literally right behind the high school. When Terry was in high school, Tito would take the lawn chair out and go down. He'd sit out in the outfield, so he wasn't by any of the people or any of the parents. He'd sit in the outfield grass and watch the ball game.
Laid back, huh?
Yeah.
Nice little town.
He let Terry be himself. He didn't interfere and try to micromanage him. Strike 3 called. Oh, Carlos Carrasco has punched out 10 Tampa Bay hitters on the night. And there are 2 down in the 6th inning.
Well, he's getting better and better. He's had at least 2 strikeouts in the last 4 innings now. There it is. That's that little 2-seamer running away right on the edge.
Some of these hitters have had that just helpless look on their face.
There's nothing you can do when a guy's throwing like this. You can't do anything.
Broken bat liner to short ends the 6th. 18 up, 18 down. Carrasco on cruise control. LeVin.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T UVerse, has more channels on the go than cable. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. We head now to the 7th inning, with the Indians leading it 5-0. And Roberto Perez, 0 for 2 on the night, will lead it off. Low and away, ball 1. Alex Colomé, just over 90 pitches on the night, and the Tampa bullpen is quiet for the moment. Looks like we're getting some stirring. We'll get a left-hander up. Strike called. Breaking ball over the inside corner. Strikeout number 3 for Perez, 1 away. Injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Sonny Gray.
He's been dealing. Second in the AL, 2.09 ERA, 9-3.
Jason Kipnis looks at a fastball for a strike. And a foul over toward the Tampa dugout. I mentioned at the end of the last inning that Colomé had set down 7 in a row. 7 in a row since the Indians scored their last run, but he's now going back officially set down 10 straight. Kipnis hammers one right down the line. Fair ball on the chalk, hops into the seats for a ground rule double. Jason with his second hit of the night and his 26th double of the season.
26th and another multi-hit game for Jason. He hit a really good pitch right there. That was a breaking ball down and hits right on the chalk.
Leads the league in doubles with 26, just inside the line.
Yeah, it was. Just inside his right.
Great second look.
His 30th multi-hit game. Another double for Jason, and he's been pulling the ball.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're trying to pitch him soft.
Down and in, too.
Well, he loves down and in. He just drops the barrel head of the bat. If you remember that first at-bat he had in this game, he hit a ball right down the line. The first baseman made a good play on it.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been another hit, and the ball he hit the shortstop and knocked the Cabrera off. He got an RBI. Could have had a hit.
You know what, they ask him, I don't know if those are mistake pitches or if they've just tried to pitch him in, because you're right, we haven't seen a lot of teams do that. Most of his hits have been pitches away where he's able to drive them to the opposite field.
They better make an adjustment, and that's what teams try to do. That gets you more pitches on the inside part of the plate. When you consistently go the other way and take your base hits and your doubles too. He's been a machine.
Aviles with a ground ball to Forsythe. 2 down. Kipnis goes to third. Time now for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag STODataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Michael Brantley 1 out of 3 with an RBI single back in the 3rd inning. Ordinarily, you'd say this is a great spot to add an insurance run, but boy, from Tampa's perspective, it may feel or seem like they're down 50-0. Rather than just the 5.
Well, yeah, it is. And especially when Carrasco's pitching, it's like lights out. It's like this. Michael wants to get another hit, get another RBI with 2 outs. Carlos is saying, let me go back out there.
That's got to be the hardest thing for a starting pitcher when you're dealing the way he is.
Yeah.
Kipnis bluffing a move down the 3rd baseline with Longoria well off the bag. Trying to unnerve Calamani. He almost threw it to the backstop.
Well, now you just don't want to distract Brantley because he's trying to concentrate. It's not like he was running back and forth. He just had a huge lead, making sure that he was looking Calamani in the eyes.
Now Longoria cheating over there a little bit to try and keep Kipnis close. Michael lifts one high in the air to center. Kiermaier over toward left field, and he'll make the catch, and that'll end the inning. Indians cruising 5-0. We've reached the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World.
Santana bobblehead as the Indians will take on the Houston Astros at Progressive Field Wednesday, July 8th. 10,000 fans will get the bobblehead courtesy of Discount Drug Mart. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Carlos Carrasco goes to work here in the bottom of the 7th. First ball swinging. Kevin Kiermaier bounces out to Santana, one away. And up comes Joey Butler. Butler 0 for 2 on the night. Carrasco has struck out 10 Tampa hitters. He has struck out at least 2 in each of the previous 3 innings. They get 4 innings. Struck out 1 in the first, 1 in the second, and then 2 each in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th innings. Joey Butler looks at the ball down and in. Two balls, no strikes. He hasn't had many of these counts.
Not at all.
Bullseye right at the bottom of the zone. Well, they were right about Butler. He doesn't move from that toe hold in the batter's box.
He stays right there once he gets in.
Not sure why he asked for time right there. He digs in and he just stands right in that spot. The 2-1. He didn't like that call. He may not move from his toe hold, but he's going to let Adrian Johnson know he didn't appreciate the call.
Well, I got to tell you, it might have been a little low, and it might have been out of there, but he's been around that plate all night, and umpires have a tendency at times, when you're pounding the strike zone and it's close, they're going to make you swing it.
Full count. Evan Longoria waiting on deck. And the payoff pitch. There's a foul back to the screen. Butler did not play in the first 2 games of this series. Just 2 hits in his last 19 at-bats. Payoff pitch. Another foul ball. And Carrasco about to make his 90th pitch of the night. His first, the Rays' first base runner of the night. Tried to get him to chase his slider.
Yeah, laid off of that.
Evan Longoria 0 for 2 on the night. He has grounded out twice. It's inside ball 1. Carrasco in for a strike. Call a ball inside, close, 2-1.
Well, you're going to take a look at it. That pitch is just a bit inside. He's sitting right in there. He called the first one a ball. He calls that one a ball. That's all you ask. Consistency as a hitter.
Right at Santana, steps on the bag. That's out number 2. Now the throw down. Aviles chases him to Santana, and Butler is retired to end the inning. A double play gets Carrasco out of the 7th. And the Indians, with a 5-0 lead, roll on to the 8th.
Indians.
Five 0. The Indians lead it as we head to the 8th inning. And the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen is for left-hander C.J. Riefenhauser. 20th round pick at Tampa Bay back in 2010. Made his major league debut last year, pitched in 7 games. And this is his 3rd stint with the Rays this year.
Pinch hitting.
Those are the numbers for Rayburn on the season. As a pinch hitter, he is 5 out of 17 with 8 runs driven in. Hop foul, and this will probably find the seats. No, it didn't get there, but Kraus didn't make the catch.
No, he got over there. They'll probably give him a no play, but he could have caught that ball. It comes back a little bit. He looks up, found his way, knew he was getting close. That one last peek hurt him. That one last peek hurt him because he had a chance to catch it. I'm sure it goes as no play.
That's true.
You get a little upset at yourself as a player right there when you get over there. It was that last peek that cost him. The short one to see where the stands were.
Rayburn looks at the ball down and in. Took off. Upstairs and a full count. Alex Colomé went 7 innings for Tampa tonight. Allowed 5 runs on 8 hits. 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Hop back out of play. Rayburn, then Carlos Santana and Brandon Moss here in the 8th inning. Rayburn pulls it foul. Upstairs, ball 4. Leadoff man aboard for the Indians. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Carlos Carrasco with 7 goose eggs on the board tonight. He has struck out 10 Tampa hitters. The only Rays batter to reach was Joey Butler with a 1-out walk in the 7th, but he was erased on a double play, so Carrasco has faced the minimum through 7. And he is all by his lonesome in that Tribe dugout.
Rightfully so. Great slider tonight. Carrasco with 94 pitches to this point.
Santana walked and scored in the 2nd inning. He's popped up, struck out since then. Santana shoots one down the right field line, slicing towards the corner, fair ball. It hops over the sidewall. It'll be a ground rule double. Rayburn will have to hold at third. He might have had a chance to score had that ball stayed in play. But once again, Rick, this has been the Indians' success formula so far tonight. When they've been able to score, they've had their first 2 men aboard safely to start an inning.
Yeah, it's their 4th time tonight doing that, Matt, and they've been able to take advantage. And this, he hung him a curveball, and Santana just slices it down the line. And that'll be a double for Carlos. Second and third and nobody out.
Brings up the man who started it all with a double back in the 2nd inning when the Indians' first 2 reached. David Murphy singled, Santana walked behind him, and then Moss laced a double into that right field corner where Santana just has his ball, except for Moss, the ball caromed around, stayed in play. The Indians scored 2 runs on this hit, and they have never looked back.
Well, he's a pool player. He banked it a little better off the sidewall.
Little Willie Mosconi.
Yeah, he had a little spin to it, goes off the sidewall and gets around the outfield. That's how you get that extra RBI.
Brandon Moss takes a strike. Remember Steve Miserak back in the light beer commercials?
Yes, I do.
The Miller Lite commercials, those were awesome.
Yes, I do. Yes, they were.
They should bring those back, just throw them out there every once in a while. They brought back the original Miller Lite can.
Right.
So let's bring back those old commercials.
That would be great.
The 0-2 blowing away.
I'm sure the other guys the guys that did them, and they're still around, would love it too, because that'd be another payday for them.
Yeah. I mean, think about the one they did it. It made fun of their relationship. Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner. You're fired. Oh no, not again.
Yeah, there were some good ones.
The 1-2 to Moss with the infield, and he drives one high in the air. Deep right center field. Souza back on the track. He's out of room. It's out of here. Brandon Moss, a 3-run home run. A towering roof scraper here at Tropicana Field. Second night in a row, the Indians have clobbered a 3-run homer, and they blow the lid off this baby and lead it 8-0.
Well, that's what the Indians' MO have been here. They scored 5 earlier tonight, but in the prior 2 games, it's been the 7th and 8th inning where they've done a lot of damage. Now another 3-run home run for the Tribe. 2 in the last 2 games. That's a beautiful thing to see, and that makes it 8-0. Moss is 13th.
Now Gio Urshela tries to go roof scraping deep down the left field line, but it goes foul. Well, that home run by Moss, what have you been talking about here the last week or so? Get the barrelhead out.
Yeah, he did.
What did he do?
He sure did. He gave it a ride. And his last at-bat, I liked his last at-bat because he flied to left center field where Kiermaier had to really go run to catch it. When he's staying on the baseball that way, now he's going to right center. Middle of the field, you know what I'm saying? To center field, left center, he knew he got it right off the bat, man. That thing was a poke.
Urshela pops one back out of play. These hitters have taken out some frustration in the first 3 games of this series. Finally taking advantage of situations, getting some hits, scoring some runs. It's like the weight of the world is lifted off some of these guys' shoulders. Urshela again sends one through the catwalks into the seats.
Yeah, they don't get many foul balls up in that territory. Well, the crooked numbers, that was dead on tonight.
Pulls it to third. Longoria had to reach down for it. Off balance throw in time. one away. In just a couple of weeks, baseball's best players will gather in Cincinnati for the Midsummer Classic. Home field advantage for the World Series on the line. Our coverage of the 2015 MLB All-Star Game begins July 14th at 7 Eastern on Fox and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. With one out, Michael Bourne steps in and takes strike one. Bourne singled into right field back in the 4th inning. And that helped push another run across for the Indians. Eight runs on 10 hits for the Indians. Good curveball. He started that at Bourne, and that baby just spun right over the heart of the plate.
Yeah, it froze him.
Former Indian Preston Guillemette getting loose. Bourne waves at a ball in the dirt. 2 down. And it looks like Kevin Cash is going to make a move here. He's going to call for the right-hander Preston Guillemette with 2 down on the bases empty in the 8th inning, and the Indians leading it 8-0.
For the All-Star break, and you can save on tickets. Buy a lower reserved or a lower box by July 6th and save 20%. The offer is only available at Indians.com, so buy early.
Roberto Perez with 2 down and the bases empty. He is 0 for 3 on the night. Guillemette appearing in his 3rd game this year. Breaking ball down low. Shoots it right at the first baseman, Krause. And the inning is over. Brandon Moss with a 3-run homer has made it 8-0 Cleveland. Taking some of the suspense out of it, but Carrasco still with a lot on the line. By a score of 8-0, and Carlos Carrasco goes to work on the 4, 5, and 6 hitters for Tampa. David DeJesus, Logan Forsythe, Steven Souza Jr. Carrasco has faced the minimum through 7. He has struck out 10. He has walked 1. DeJesus 1 for his last 27. Out of play. And the count 1-1. Carrasco nearing 100 pitches, and the Indians have double barrel action in the bullpen. Foul ball towards Kipnis. One away. There really have not been any hard hit balls. There was a broken bat liner by Casale. Been a handful of ground ball outs, a couple of fly ball outs. There was a nice diving stop by Santana in the first, but it wasn't a spectacular play. It was a very good play.
Yeah, where he lets Carrasco to first.
He has just dominated.
Yeah, he's dominated. He's been locked in all night long. He's had a great slider from the very first one he threw coming out of the bullpen. And everything else is falling into place. He's thrown a boatload of strikes. Right now he's at 67%. This will be pitch number 100 for him.
Just in off the plate.
So 67% strikes. And when you look, the stress, there's not. The highest pitch inning, 17. I think that was the same as Salazar last night. Going in late into that ball game, that was his highest inning.
Swing and a miss. He has his 11th strikeout of the night.
And people are starting to get pumped. The fans are starting to get into it. There's the pitch of the night. There you go, another slider, and he puts him away. Strikeout number 11.
Now Steven Souza Jr., who has struck out both times tonight. And a swing and a miss. He took a little something off, and Souza swung right over the top of it. Oh, for his last 22 at the plate. In on his hands. No balls, 2 strikes.
Right now, you don't even have to throw him a strike. He swung him one away, swung at the pitch inside, and he's not even close. So I wouldn't even throw him a strike.
Two-strike offering in the dirt. The 1-2. Pulls the breaking ball foul. You have to feel those guys down on the bullpen are probably saying, why am I even warming up down here?
No doubt.
1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Carrasco has struck out his 12th hitter of the night, and he is now 3 outs away from putting his name in the record books. Great. That was a very good play by Santana. This was almost a disaster.
See, that's the scary play right there because you couldn't see it.
And a very good scoop by Santana.
Because Urshela didn't really have a good grip on that ball, and that was just an easy double play right there.
Yeah, that erased the only base runner Tampa has had in this game. There was a 1-out walk to Butler in the 7th. But because of the double play, Carrasco has faced only the minimum through 8. And here in the 9th, Jason Kipnis will lead off for the Tribe, who leads it 8-0. Kipnis bangs it towards short. Cabrera with a backhand and a long throw to get him 1 away. Looks like Evan Longoria has left the game. Jake Elmore is now in at 3rd.
This has been an amazing 3 games of starting pitching for the Indians.
I can't say I've ever seen anything like this.
I don't think anybody has. This has been, wow. It's just, you shake your head and say, I can't believe it.
Mike Avila sends one toward the catwalks, and I don't know how it missed it. I thought it was going to get caught up there. Right through the lights. And out of play.
And there's two of the culprits right there.
Yeah.
Big man started at Cody Anderson on your right. Salazar continued it last night.
And Carrasco's taken it a couple of steps further.
Yeah, the guy in the background wiping his face. He needs 3 more outs. Oh, and by the way, Kluber's coming at you tomorrow. Wow. This has been a treat.
And
you
Mike,
can see those starters are right at the top step too, ready to watch.
Avila sends one to center field. Routine for Kiermaier. 2 down. Our keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. And as we look back at them, more crooked numbers. 2 in the second, 2 in the third, a 3 spot in the 8th. And Carlos Carrasco has been just, we've said it a number of times tonight, in a word, he has been dominant. And Michael Brantley 1 out of 4 with an RBI hit back in the 3rd inning. In the bottom of the 9th, it will be Asdrubal Cabrera, Mark Krause, and Kurt Casale due up for Tampa. Right back to Guillemette. The Indians go in order. And we'll go to the bottom of the 9th, seeing if Carlos Carrasco can make history here tonight. Next, right here on Sports Time Ohio. If you've missed anything leading up to this moment, stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. Asdrubal Cabrera, 0 for 2 on the night, has struck out twice. Will lead it off for Tampa. Swings to the first pitch and fouls it off.
Come on, Brewy.
12 strikeouts for Carrasco tonight. And 10 of the 12 have been swinging. Which just tells you how overpowering he has been. Cabrera got a piece of it. It's 0-2.
And it's been like this all night where the hitters are not going to spot him. They've been aggressive. They want to swing early because they know he has been nasty. He's been able to put that wipeout pitches on him. So that's why he's had a lot of 2-strike counts. Started this inning at 106 pitches.
No 2 pitch. A little bit low. Got a pinch hitter waiting on deck. Brandon Guyer set to bat for Mark Krause. And a 1-2 down low. Cabrera almost offered at him. You could see him start the swing, but then immediately able to hold up. And off the plate, full count.
See, the crowd's into it. Listen to the umpires.
They're with Carrasco now.
Yes, they are. They sure are. They thought it was in there. They wanted to hear a strike call, but it was in off the plate.
And there are a lot of Indians fans here.
Yeah, you go from 0-2 to 3-2.
And the payoff pitch is pulled foul. Well, this is another indicator of just how good Carrasco has been tonight. Cabrera has been the Rays' hottest hitter, batting .356 in his last 12 games. Bumped his batting average almost 30 points during that time. But tonight, he has struck out twice against Carrasco. Now he's putting up his best at bat of the night. And the payoff pitch is ball 4. Carrasco has walked to second. And Tampa gets the leadoff man aboard. Now we'll get the pinch hitter, Brandon Guyer. Guyer has reached base in 8 of his last 17 plate appearances. And as a pinch hitter, he's gone 6 for 19 with a homer and 6 runs batted in. And now Grady Sizemore has moved to the on-deck circle to bat for Casale.
Well,
hit him right in the back.
I was going to say, after his last walk, Carrasco was able to come back and get the double play ball, but that first pitch drills the pinch hitter in the back. So now they will have 2 aboard to face Sizemore. Take a look at this pitch. Boom. He couldn't get out of the way. Almost right on the numbers.
So Grady Sizemore will bat. Sizemore playing just his 4th game with the Rays. And he's done a nice job. Going 4 out of 13 with a homer and a couple runs batted in. That homer came against the Indians. In fact, it was Grady Sizemore's home run that spoiled the no-hit led by actually the perfect game at that time by Cody Anderson.
Right.
2 nights ago. Ground ball toward the hole. Aviles goes to second. They get the out there. And that's the first out of the inning.
Yeah, you made sure, Aviles made sure that he was going to get one out. That lead runner. He took his time. He jumped up to give Kipnis a feed. Look at, he didn't try to do anything. Kipnis was thinking of turning it. Wisely holds on to it. I don't think they would have had a chance at Sizemore at first base. So now it's 1st and 3rd with 1 out.
And we go to the top of the order and Kevin Kiermaier. By the way, Rick, the only runners to reach for Tampa, 2 walks, a hit batter. And Carrasco, we mentioned what Cody Anderson had done and then what Danny Salazar did last night. And according to the expert statisticians at Elias, the Sports Bureau, before tonight, no team in the expansion era, at least since 1961, had pitched a perfect game through 5 innings in 3 straight games.
Yeah. I can believe that. That's impressive what we're seeing.
So not only is it something we've never seen, it's something nobody's ever seen, at least since 1961. Now with runners at the corners and 1 out. The 1-1 pitch. And he just missed. Kiermaier, not an easy guy to double up. He's only hit into 3. Pulls it foul.
Well, you need just one of those good one-hoppers to Kipnis. Let him turn it.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Cody Anderson on your far right. Danny Salazar in the middle. They pitched games 1 and 2 of this series. They were electrifying, but Carrasco's taking it to another level here tonight. Into the 9th with 1 out. And the 2-2 fouled away.
He's just trying to slap it that way. They're doing everything in their power. Hey, look, they've had 2 hits in one game, 3 hits in another. For Tampa, they had 3 the first night, 2 last night. So it's been a tough series. They're just trying to find some outfield grass.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
Good changeup, number 13.
Baker's dozen for Carlos Carrasco, and there are 2 down in the 9th inning.
A beautiful changeup here by Carrasco. I think that might be his first changeup for a strikeout tonight out of the 13, but it's another swing and miss strikeout, and there are 2 down and 1 man to go.
Joey Butler will be the batter. He is 0 for 2 tonight. He has grounded out, struck out. Last time up, a terrific at bat, and he reached via a walk. Fouls it off. He was the first Tampa hitter to reach base in this game with 1 out in the 7th inning. The only others to reach, Cabrera, who walked to start this inning, and Brandon Guyer, the pinch hitter, who was hit by a pitch. That has been it. 1st and 3rd, 2 down. Swing and a miss. It's 0-2. Oh, did he take something off that pitch and completely baffle Butler? And the 0-2. Line. Oh, just beyond the reach of Kipnis, and the Rays break up the no-hitter and the shutout with 1 swing of the bat, and the Butler did it. Kipnis leaped in the air in vain trying to get that ball. He wanted it badly. He wanted it for Carrasco as much as anybody on this field. And you can see Carlos point out to Kipnis in his direction, really applauding the effort of his second baseman. But it's all for naught as Tampa spoils the no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning.
Oh, boy, oh, boy. What a valiant effort.
And Carrasco, he was smiling all the way. I'm sure he's disappointed, but at the end, it's all about the W, and that is what is in hand for the Indians, who lead it 8-1, and what a hand for Carrasco. Of effort that he had.
Well, yeah, as a position player, boy, you get caught up and wrapped into that thing. It doesn't matter. Look at it. What a great shot that is. He appreciates the effort. Quite a ball game for Carlos Carrasco.
He looked at it, was like, oh, it was so close. And from his vantage point, it probably looked even closer.
Well, I got to tell you, the 3 starts in this series, let's go back and say, boy, they've been fun to watch.
Well, Rick, the other thing you talked about, how hard it is to throw a no-hitter. The last Indians pitcher to throw a no-hitter on the road, which is what Carrasco is trying to do, was 1948 when Bob Lemon did it in Detroit. The other no-hitters of recent memory, Bob Feller in 51, Sonny Siebert in 66, Dick Bosman in 74, Eck in 77, Lenny in 81. Those were all done in Cleveland. He came so close, but with 2 outs in the 9th inning, Joey Butler breaks it up. Now, Austin Adams will try to finish it. Jake Elmore, his first at bat of the night, fouls it off. Now the 0-1. Probably starting slowly to sink in for Carrasco just how close he came to one of the toughest feats in baseball.
Now, it was fun to watch. 1 strike away. I will tell you, the majority of the fans were pulling for him, just like his teammates. But you got to give credit right there to the Butler. As you say, the Butler did it.
Now the 2-1. Check swing back to the screen. Scoreboard tells the story. Look at all those zeros until you get to the 9th. Now the 2-2. .124 pitches on the night for Carlos Carrasco, but as you pointed out, he was stress-free. The only reason he had so many pitches is because he had 13 strikeouts.
Yes.
Very rarely did he go deep into many counts. It was either, 0-2, 1-2, a couple of foul balls, and then a strikeout.
Yeah. You can't pitch a better game than Carrasco pitched tonight.
Looped, shallow center. Bourne is there and makes the catch, and the game is over. And the Indians have won the first 3 in this 4-game series against Tampa. The final tonight, Cleveland 8, Tampa Bay 1. Carlos Carrasco with his 10th win of the season. He goes 8 2/3, charged with 1 run on 1 hit, taking a no-hitter into the 9th inning with 2 outs before Joey Butler broke it up with the RBI single. But the bigger picture story for Cleveland is another win as they go to 36-41. So they've evened their record on the trip after the disastrous start in Baltimore, in which they were swept by 3. Now a chance to sweep all 4 here from the Rays in Tampa.
Well, that was a fun game to watch. Carrasco was so good tonight. Look at all the players, hugs going around. I mean, to follow up what the Indians did the prior 2 nights, Matt, is difficult to do, and he did better. He went into the 9th inning and a chance for that no-hitter. And, of course, they had all the runs. Hey, when they had 2 runs, they had enough.
And to reiterate, according to Elias, no team since 1961, that's when the expansion era began, had pitched 3 straight games in which they had a perfect game through 5 innings. That's right. How special this little stretch has been for the Indians. And they've taken advantage of it, making the most, winning the first 3 games. And a noon start tomorrow will give them a chance at a 4-game sweep. And as you said, and oh, by the way, guess who's coming to dinner tomorrow? It's Corey Kluber.
I don't think they should know that yet.
They may not want to know. I know Andre Knott is hard at work down on the field. He's corralled the Cookie Monster.
I'll tell you one thing. that head of his is going to get a lot of rubs because it started here, and it may not end. It may go on for quite some time.
Well, if it's truly a good luck charm, let the rubbing begin. 8-1 the final. Let's go down to Andre.
Carlos, just talk about how tonight felt and what was working for you.
You know what? I think there was everything. Every pitch, every count. And just me, that's